moving on to our next industry presentation on building a world-class voice AI solution for enterprises. This session is brought to you by our gold partner, Verloop.io. This session will be presented by Ms. Urvashi Singh, Director of Sales, India at Verloop.io. Ms. Urvashi, the stage is all yours.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining in. I'm Urvashi. I lead sales for India region for Verloop. Let's just rewind, say, to 2020 and see how many of you, while everything was normal, you had your tickets booked for some sort of travel, and the moment pandemic hit, you had to actually reach out to, say, one of the travel portals or the airlines to get the ticket either rescheduled or refunded. Raise your hands if you had travel booked that time. Cool. So I actually struggled. So I had travel, abroad, and I sort of struggled for almost 6 months to sort of even get in touch with an agent. There was a wait queue on call for about half an hour every single day. I sort of reached out, and at the end of the day, I sort of gave up. But after 6 months, I again tried, and I luckily, got in touch with somebody who shared an email ID, in fact, and that took another 2 months to sort of get in touch with somebody who was the right person to sort of assist me in terms of email communication. So that was an 8 months-long process for me to sort of even figure out how to go about the entire rescheduling, how to go about the entire cancellation of the ticket. And that is when we as a company, we realized that, how customer experience is actually broken whenever there's a surge in the customer queries, right? We've spent the entire day yesterday to sort of strongly establish, and in fact, everybody has some or the other personal experience that, really makes us believe that whenever you reach out to a company, there are very, very less chances that you'll get a good support or a good experience. While companies claim that, 80% of the companies actually claim that they provide a superior experience, only 8% of their customers agree. And this is a study that we actually saw from Bain & Company. Right? So if you have a complete reliance on manpower, there is some or the other scenario where the customer experience sort of breaks. And even say 40% automation of queries can actually lead to a drastic improvement in sort of customer, even agent productivity and efficiency, and sort of lead to a very, very holistic customer experience overall, which also sort of retains the customer in terms of coming back and sort of speaking to you again. Right? So, in terms of bot automation, voice automation, it's always that you start with a 40 or a 50%, wherein all your L1, L2 queries are actually handled by bots. And then, all your complex queries, all your high-level queries are actually moved to agents for better handling and support. That is where, you create an environment which is actually supported even in cases where, there's a surge of customer queries. Or in fact, even in cases where there is a shortage of manpower, say, for example. So these are, let's just rewind and see what are the different challenges that we spoke about in different sessions yesterday as well. So, right from long hold time on the call to even inconsistent experience. Every support team or every call center sees a lot of churn in terms of agents being, say, trained over a certain period of time, and then they actually just leave without any prior notice. And that is when your customer experience actually hampers, because the moment you get new people on the field, it becomes very difficult to sort of train them and provide the same experience to the customer. Then language issue is something that everybody struggles with. In India, while there is a dialect change, there is a language change, in every few kilometers, it's very, very difficult to actually just maintain the sanity in terms of, say, providing the customer with the preferred language of choice in terms of communication. Also, loss of context, right? A lot of times, whenever you reach out to a call center or to, say, a support team, mostly the agents who take your first call are not the ones who actually, say, give you the resolution. There are multiple transfers. It gets transferred to the higher management. It gets transferred to, say, the supervisor on the floor. And that is where there's, again, loss of context, and you need to continuously repeat your queries that you have, right? So these are certain challenges that we figured while talking to call centers and while talking to customer support teams that they face on a day-to-day basis. And with this, what we figured is the losses are also immense. You have really, really high churn on the floor. Even for, say, a couple of thousands of bucks, people actually like switching teams because that bracket is so low in terms of customer, support agents. Also, in terms of low NPS, bad PR, poor retention of customers, all of these losses lead you to a very, very bad customer experience or a broken customer experience at a certain given point in time with the customer. Uh, with this, we sort of help you fix all of these challenges and at the same time deliver a delightful customer experience with a holistic customer support ecosystem that we sort of built, both in terms of chat and voice. So just introducing Whirloop here. So Whirloop as a platform, we've been focused completely on customer engagement and support automation. When I say that, we actually utilize multiple channels right from WhatsApp to mobile app chat support, website chat support, even social media handles like Facebook Messenger or Instagram DM, and even the voice calls that are being made. And the entire 360-degree support is provided to the customer whenever they reach out with a certain query, or even whenever you reach out to the customer with, say, any outbound call. Right, so we built a holistic solution in terms of providing support to the customer via these multiple channels. Um, Yes, so with automation of voice, there are broadly certain use cases that we sort of figured out, and this is true across industries. We sort of have worked with a lot of BFSI companies, worked with a lot of real estate companies, a lot of, say, e-commerce firms, and these are broadly the use cases that we figured that actually, require some bit of automation, and, over our experience, we figured most of at least 60 to 65% queries are redundant in nature and can be automated without any manual intervention. So when I talk about outbound sales calls, these are mostly the calls that you make to the customer with a certain agenda, right? You reach out to the customer, say, for example, for a KYC or a re-KYC, right? You reach out to the customer to upsell or cross-sell a product, or to, say, even qualify a lead for a certain product or service, right? And all of these calls right now mostly are made manually, which requires a lot of bandwidth and also is redundant in nature. And most of these calls actually lead to call abandonment, a high call abandonment rate, wherein the customer just, say, hangs up on the agent, and that leads to very, very low productivity of the agents as well. Just deep diving, say, in one of the use cases here, in terms of automating KYC. So we've been talking to a lot of banks, a lot of insurance houses, a lot of financial institutions, and we saw this is one thing that they've struggled with over the last few years in terms of getting the customers to update KYC, right? So this is something, and the steps are so simple that it could actually be automated, and it doesn't require any manual intervention. Mostly people reach out to collect certain documents or to get certain inputs from the customer. And while the calls could be a limiting platform or a limiting medium to reach out to the customer, we sort of also help you automate different channels like WhatsApp, SMS, or even say emails, wherein while being on call, the bot can actually just trigger a link to the customer and also help the customer through the entire browsing or the process automation experience. So when I say that, say for example, if the customer has to update KYC, right? What we sort of are trying to create is a co-browsing experience with the customer, wherein when the bot calls the customer to sort of do a certain process or go through a certain document upload application, we also sort of trigger a link to the customer on WhatsApp at the same time, get on, while being on call, ask the customer to open that link, and then help the customer throughout the entire process of uploading those documents and providing those inputs. How that helps is, it actually improves your conversion rate or completion rate by at least 60 to 70% because you're actually on call with the customer while the customer is, helping you, say, complete the entire process. Just quickly running you through, one of the calls that we had with one of the fintechs. sort of would give you an idea in terms of how we go about this entire KYC process automation.
हेलो, दिस इज एन इम्पोर्टेंट कॉल फ्रॉम इजी पे। ये इजी पे की ओर से एक जरूरी सूचना है। थैंक यू फॉर शोइंग इंटरेस्ट इन ऑनबोर्डिंग विद इजी पे। वीव रिसीव्ड योर एप्लीकेशन। योर ऑनबोर्डिंग इज currently on hold due to incomplete documentation. The documents submitted for company PAN card and personal Aadhaar card of Harshit Marwa were found incorrect. You need to submit those documents again for us to proceed with your application. Would you like to submit it via WhatsApp or email?
पैन कार्ड तो एप्लीकेशन के साथ ही दिया था।
हमें आपके आवेदन के साथ पैन कार्ड भी प्राप्त हुआ था, लेकिन उसकी जांच करते हुए हमने देखा कि पैन कार्ड की क्वालिटी अच्छी नहीं है और आपको इसे फिर से जमा करना पड़ेगा। कृपया अपने पैन कार्ड की एक साफ और अच्छी क्वालिटी का स्कैन लेकर दोबारा हमसे साझा करें। आप इसे व्हाट्सएप के जरिए साझा करना चाहेंगे या ईमेल करेंगे?
And what was the issue with Aadhaar card?
We received Aadhaar card of Harshit Marwa attached with the application. But during document review, our compliance team noticed that only the front page of the Aadhaar was shared in. The back page needs to be submitted as well. You need to take a clear color scan of the back page of Aadhaar card and submit again. Would you prefer doing it through WhatsApp or will send over email?
I will WhatsApp.
We are sending a WhatsApp message to your registered number. Please share these documents with us there so we can proceed with your onboarding. Anything else I can help you with?
How soon can I get my account?
Once we receive your documents, it takes about 3 to 4 business days for our team to activate your account. Please share the documents quickly with us so we can proceed with the next steps. Anything else I can help you with?
No, thank you.
Sure. So a couple of things that you would have noticed here would be, whenever the customer was switching language, the bot was also able to switch language and talk in the preferred language of choice of the customer. And while this was an outbound call, when the customer ended up asking a couple of questions like, hey, when would my account be activated, right? The bot was actually able to provide answers to those questions as well, instead of just, say, having a certain agenda and then cutting the call. What we are also building beyond this is actually an entire co-browsing experience with the customer after the link has been triggered on WhatsApp to the customer. So we, post this, we ask the customer to open the link, and while being on call, sort of complete the entire process of uploading documents and getting all the inputs in place. So that's actually improving the customer completion rate in terms of KYC and other process automation, and also helping companies have a better customer experience in terms of the entire process automation. At the same time, reduces the load on the agents at the call center, in the support team, who are continuously actually on calls with the customers for the same reasons. That could easily be automated without any manual intervention. Also, in terms of inbound service calls, a lot of companies, they receive calls that are very, very redundant in nature, right? Say, for example, we were talking to an insurance house the other day. Most of the queries that they receive are actually around insurance claim status, say, any consolidated premium statement, or maybe just to, say, understand when is the next premium due. These are the top 3 queries any insurance house would have, right? And we figured these queries could easily be automated, say, by just connecting to the CRM of the company and providing the customer with those details, and doesn't even require any sort of human touch, right? So any kind of sales or service inquiry that comes in to the call center can actually first be diverted to a platform like Whirloop, which takes care of at least 60 to 65% of these queries. And if any agent intervention is required, the call can actually be placed back on the dialer for further handling and support. Then also, this is something that we covered in terms of process automation. So right from lead qualification to even reducing the TAT of reaching out to the customer, right? Whenever the customer shows interest in one of your product and services. Today, we see at least a lag of 2 to 3 hours from the time the customer has shown interest to the time there is, say, a support agent reaches out to the customer. And that is something we're also trying to solve for. How can we actually reduce the chat to, say, a few minutes? So that the moment the customer is hot and sort of shows interest, the bot reaches out on call in terms of providing more information about that product and service. And also sort of qualifying the customer in terms of certain details that you require in terms of taking the process further, say, for a conversion or for even onboarding. So with Whirloop, we are sort of creating that entire holistic support ecosystem wherein, while all the calls that are, L1, L2, L3 can actually be handled by bots, you can also utilize multiple channels like WhatsApp, chat support, and even, SMS and emails in order to create that overall experience for the customer, which actually brings the customer back to you whenever there's any sort of requirement or any sort of issue. So for enterprises, we are completely focusing on data and security as well. While these calls happen, they are completely transcripted, and the entire call has speech-to-text translation as well. So for every use case that we sort of automate, be it an inbound query or an outbound call, we sort of make use of your historic data in terms of call logs, and we train the models, machine learning models, in a very, very narrow and customized way. Say, for example, while a bank would understand a term of, say, a fixed deposit, an e-commerce firm has no relevance to that term, right? So we train very, very narrow and customized machine learning models that actually work on your keyword boosting, work on your jargons, and then help the customer, identify the issues very, very quickly and resolve them. Building very narrow models, the ASR that we built is also very, very customized in terms of, again, keywords and jargons, and also sort of helps the customer overall understand or maybe get the resolution to the query very, very quickly. Then again, in terms of language processor, we have support for all the regional languages in India. In fact, we are working with a lot of banks and financial institutions in Middle East and Southeast Asia as well. So, right from Arabic to Bahasa, we are actually supporting a lot of foreign languages too. Then in terms of integration, again, so it's a product that doesn't work in silo. It actually works in tandem with your existing support ecosystem. So if you already have a dialer, you already have a team, it just sort of integrates with your dialer. It also integrates with your CRM. And before the call hits your call center and moves to the agent, it's actually moved to Whirloop in terms of automation. And if any sort of agent intervention is required, is when the call is placed back on the dialer for distribution amongst the team members. So it works in tandem with your existing ecosystem and also helps you sort of reduce the load, or overall load, and manage surges whenever there is any new campaign that goes out, or there's any new product launch or service launch. So in terms of, again, data analysis, this is something that we noticed with most of the call centers and most of the support teams across industries. When we visited them, most of the QC that was happening was just about 3 to 5%. None of the call centers were actually getting maybe more than 2 calls or 3 calls per week of an agent to be actually evaluated for quality check. And that is where we realized how important it is to identify the gaps, identify the issues, identify the training needs, and also identify if there is process adherence in most of the calls that are being made. Because right now, you don't know, if you're just doing 3 to 5% of QC, you actually are not aware of the reality at the ground level. And that is where we started analyzing the calls that were being actually made by the bot, and overall created a product that also can do 100% QC of your agent calls as well. So while the bot calls are all recorded and are transcripted and could be analyzed for data, we also started analyzing the agent's calls that were happening on the dialer. And we sort of started even validating the dispositions that were provided by the agents. While the visit, we also figured that there was only a 15 to 20 second window that the agent gets to sort of fill those dispositions and move to the next call. And most of these dispositions are either random in nature or are, say, just something that the agent could type in those 20 seconds. And that is where we felt, validating those dispositions and also identifying how much gap there is in terms of actual ideal customer experience versus the experience that is being provided to the customer, could actually be achieved by analyzing the calls that are being made both by the agent and by the bot. So 100% QC is something that we're trying, we're achieving with the banks and the financial institutions, again, that we are working with. And this is something that is working really, really well, both in terms of data analysis and also in terms of identifying process adherence and compliance, to even something as small as, hey, did the agent welcome the customer when the call went through, or did the agent say, give the details of this new product launch that we had just last week, right? Something as simple as that. Then in terms of overall reporting and dashboarding, all of these calls at the aggregate level can actually be analyzed for even metrics like call abandonment rate, transfer rate, even the percentage of calls that are being handled by the bot versus the agent. The data can be filtered as per need, and all of these data metrics can also be pushed to your analytics tool or maybe to your CRM for further handling. Again, in terms of scalability and security, while we focus a lot on data, we also make sure that the data is secure. Since we are working with a lot of BFSI companies, we have to at least maintain high standards in terms of data privacy and security. And for that, right from having PII masking to GDPR compliance, ISO certification, SOC 2 certification, even HIPAA compliance, all of these certifications became very, very critical to the entire deployment. And this actually ensures that your data is completely secure and also encrypted at rest and also in transition phase. Right? So in terms of building the entire platform and also giving you a platform where you could analyze data and sort of have a holistic customer experience, which is very, very delightful in nature, we make sure that your data is secure. We make sure that the entire deployment at least gives you 60 to 65% automation in terms of load handling. Again, if you forgot about me, that's me. Just in terms of, say, voice automation and creating a holistic system, how Whirloop can actually build a world-class automation support system for enterprises is something that we covered throughout the presentation. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us today again. That's about me. Yeah. Thanks a lot.